See, like with the background, like it's all weird. Like when you move yourself, like behind you, it's all woo. I don't know if you're seeing that on mine, but I'm seeing that on mine. Oh man, now it's like taking forever for the record button to work. Constantly thwarted at every turn.
I'm so jealous. I don't have any of the updates.
You need to like reboot your Chromebook or something. Then. I don't
How do
know.
you do that?
You turn it off and on. Anyways, today we're going to talk about Khutulun, who is one of my favorite Mongol figures. I hope you guys enjoy it. Yes, Miss Patel?
You're not presenting.
Oh, the worst. Thank you for keeping me honest. I am now presenting. I really appreciate you telling me that. Here we go. So Khutulun, one of my favorite Mongol folks. All right. So Khutulun, where did she come from? So she was Genghis Khan's great great granddaughter. Now we see that he's going to have a lot of children and grandchildren and great grandchildren. So that might not be notable for the fact, but she is actually going to have her a great uncle be Kublai Khan. So she is of that lineage, and her father was a man named Kaidu. And Kaidu is going to be important because he is going to go to war with Kublai Khan. So we're going to see one of those Mongol civil wars. And basically, it was a clash between cultures where Kaidu represented the Mongols that like the old ways of being nomadic, of riding, of, the archery. And he was the ruler of the Chagatai Khanate, which is in the gray over here. So we're going to have Kublai Khan ruling the Yuan dynasty, which is their green, and the Chagatai Khanate is going to be ruled by Kaidu. And Kaidu was Kublai's nephew. Now, I tried to find a picture of Kaidu. All I could find was the family mark, and he's of the lineage of Ogadai, who was Great Khan a while ago. And so Kaidu represents the old ways, whereas Kublai represented the idea of civilization, of settling down, of having the arts and architecture, essentially emulating the Chinese. So we have this clash of cultures. And this war is going to last for over 30 years. So this is a long war. Lots of Mongols are going to fight and kill themselves over this. But that's just the background, so you can get a little idea of the life that Khutulun is going to be living, letting us go and see what's going to happen there. So this is just a little background. Don't worry about it too much. Now let's get to the main event here. Khutulun, the warrior. Now, just like her brothers, she is going to wind up learning how to ride horses and shoot the bow and arrow. Basically, as soon as she could start walking, they popped her on a horse. As soon as she could start holding stuff, they gave her a bow. So she's going to learn, and she's going to have a total of 14 brothers. I think I erroneously said 17 the other day by accident. It was 14. I apologize for the mistake. But here's the thing. She has 14 brothers. That's not who her father looked to. Look to Khutulun. She winds up becoming one of his generals, one of his commanders, going and leading troops in battle. Now, typically, what would happen, and we read about this in the primary source, the commanders would not usually go into battle. They would stay off just a little bit of distance, and they had those, those dummy armies with the scarecrows and the women and children up on their horses. But at one point, he's going to declare her the greatest Mongol warrior. Now think about that. The Mongols were all about war, and here he's saying that she is the greatest of them. And one of the things that she would do is she would go and she'd be watching the battle, and sometimes she would just dart off, and she would go and capture an enemy soldier. I guess I would give you a little bit more time to read that before we move on. I'm going to have a quote about that and how she would literally just, like for no reason except to go and conquer, would go and, go out and capture, endanger her life, and be incredibly brave. Because think about it too. Going and capturing an enemy is a lot harder than going out and killing an enemy. If Simon goes out and he only wants to, take hold of Sahil, that's one thing. It's much more for him to do that than if he just, attacks Sahil with a sword or a bow or something. So here's a quote describing that. Sometimes she would quit her father's side, you don't have to write this, and make a dash at the hosts of the enemy, and seize some man thereout as deftly as a hawk pounces on a bird, and carry him to her father. And this she did many a time. So, you're battling, just out of nowhere comes this lady hitting you over the head, throwing you over her horse, and it's crazy. But that is not even why she was most famous. The wrestler. So, Khutulun became known as the woman of 10,000 horses. Now, when we have people in this time period going and using a number like 10,000, 10,000 was kind of like saying she is a woman of an unimaginable amount of horses, like tons and tons. So was the number really 10,000? Probably not. It could be more, probably was less though. Just the woman of a lot of horses. So you might be thinking, Senor Kenny, how did Khutulun get the horse? And I just realized my background with the purple clouds matches the PowerPoint. How amazing is that? Oh yeah. So she was a wrestler. And basically here was the deal. She was really, really good at wrestling. I'm not talking about like this WWE stuff where Jacob is throwing Elijah like real far and then like jumping on him and stuff like that. This is like real wrestling where it's like you're actually trying to pin the person to the ground and you're, like realistic. And basically the deal was you'd wrestle her, which guys were like, I can definitely beat a girl in wrestling, right? And if you won, you got to marry her. If you lost, you had to pay her 100 horses. And here's the thing. She kept on winning. Like, she was undefeated. People could not stop her. And so all the time, guys would be like, oh, yeah, I could totally beat a girl in wrestling. He'd be like, okay, 100 horses, bet. And he'd be like, no problem. And then, yeah, he'd lose every time, all of these boys. Is that a hand, Celine? Yes?
So if she did have 10,000 horses, does that mean that she beat 100 people?
Well, she probably beat more than 100. So maybe she was a woman of more than 10,000, honestly. Because she was constantly challenged and constantly won. I don't know if it was always 100 horses was the bet, but that became part of the legend that it was 100 horses. There's going to be one man who's going to bet her 1,000 horses, and he's also going to lose. Spoiler. So yeah, she constantly won. She was always challenged and always won. It's pretty cool. I like it. And now there's going to be one instance where her father is even going to beg her to lose, be like, this guy would be a really good match for you. You should please, just for once, just lose on purpose so that you can go get married. But she doesn't. She will not. She doesn't listen to her dad. And think about how crazy this is, because this is a time period where think about when we talked about Chinggis Khan and how he got married. Basically, his family went to another family and said, all right, your daughter is going to marry our son. And that was how it was done. And that was how it was done for so much of the world where people wouldn't even get to have much of a say. Or maybe the man would get a say and the girl wouldn't get that much of a say. But she said, no, I'm not going to get married. And she didn't. Now, there's a lot of questions as to why. Some people theorize that she was actually in love with one becoming the ruler of the Ilkhan. I can't remember his name, but they're basically cousins. And it could have been that, it was forbidden. Well, back then people did that. I know you're making faces. I know it's gross. But back then people did that sort of thing. They married their first and second cousins because gross. Those are the people you knew, I guess. And you kept your riches in. I know, Claire Bear. I wouldn't do it either. And that just she wasn't picked for the match. And then since she couldn't have the guy she wanted, she never wanted to marry anyone. But we don't know why she chose this. Maybe she just wanted to be independent. Maybe she wasn't interested in anybody. So Kaidu, though, respected her so much that he planned to even make Khutulun the next Khan, which, of course, everyone was like, No, we don't want to make one of your 14 sons be the next Khan. We don't want her to be, And Kaidu tries to make this happen, but it unfortunately does not happen for Khutulun. And she mysteriously dies at the age of 46. Now, some people think that because she was contesting for power, that she was murdered. Some people, there's one version of the legend where and like there's legends with this because we don't have full history. Khutulun was 100% real, so don't think that this is just a legendary figure or like a happy fairy tale. No, she was a real person. She really did wrestle. She really did like never lose and had lots and lots of horses. But there's like some versions of the story which aren't very well sourced. It's like, well, because she couldn't go and have the man she wanted to marry, she wound up killing herself, which I find hard to believe with Khutulun, with how strong she was. I don't buy that version of the story. I lend kind of towards the fact that either she got sick and died randomly, which people did all the time, like 46 was kind of old. It's past the average lifespan, especially for like a warrior, or that she was killed because she was contesting for power to be the Khan. But I wanted to take us on that little journey to talk about Khutulun because I think she's such an awesome historical figure. And let's face it, I love girls who kick butt. I think it's really awesome, especially for this time period where they typically weren't allowed to. So yeah, Khutulun is cool. She's in that Rejected Princesses book, if any of you guys remember that from last year. That's how I actually found out about her. And that was a really good read. Normally in class we would have read that as opposed to having me do a PowerPoint, but doing like readings on top of readings, I just didn't think it was a good idea. So that is Khutulun. I'm going to stop the recording. Do we have